The new Mulan movie has many, many problems. Fun, interesting characters have been taken out and replaced, new characters put in, for no reason apparently. No, I'll make a man out of you musical number, which is probably one of the most iconic scenes out of the whole movie, and Disney couldn't even do a shitty re-adaptation of that. Dishonor on you, dishonor on your cow. Oh wow, I got way more emotional over that than I thought I would. So yes, the new Mulan movie has a lot of problems, and I'm not going to make a whole video about all the problems and issues I have with the movie. That has already been done to death. Now, in this video, I'm going to be focusing on one aspect of the movie and picking that apart and giving my completely useless opinion about the big, huge battle between the Rorans and the Imperial Army in the movie. Now, for a disclaimer, I am not a military strategist, but I do have an interest in military history for many different civilizations and for many periods in humanity's history. And I have wasted, well, I don't see it as wasted, it's invested many hours of my life playing Total War games. So you could describe me as an armchair strategist with no actual knowledge or experience. So let's get into the battle itself and covering my issues with this battle between the Imperial Army and the Roran Horde. If you can call that a horde.
Horde?
My first issue with this battle in the new Mulan movie is it has such small scale. I appreciate that they tried to use as many live extras as they could. Well, I assume they're alive and not dead, but they tried to use as many extras as they could to provide the realism for the battle. But for me, it wasn't enough. I really would prefer they added a few more CGI people in there just to create the scale. In a lot of ancient Chinese battles, the Chinese always had numbers, and so did their adversaries. Often battles would consist of tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of soldiers. This whole battle looks like it's just a small skirmish between two advanced parties from both of the main armies. That's how small it looks. It doesn't even look like it's that much of a big final battle. When the Roran army charges the Imperial army, there's no tactics here. They're just blindly charging in. There's no skirmishing from a distance using their bows, not trying to flank the enemy. They're just charging straight into it. Charging straight into a spear line with your cavalry. That is always a very good idea. I suggest you try it in a Total War game. But the Imperial army starts off well. They break formation to let their bowmen at the front to get clear shots at the Roran army, so that works pretty well. But then the weirdest shit happens. The Shadow Warriors, their elite warriors, just retreat for no reason, and I cannot figure out why they just start retreating. They get close to the Imperial line and then just start running away.
Why are you running?
And then the Imperial army sends like 8 guys to chase them down. And I'm not sure what the strategy was here. Did those guys know that one of those people in the Imperial army did have special chi powers and they just specifically wanted to lure Mulan out just to catch her by herself? Because that's what it seems like they were doing, but that wasn't set up at all. No, I couldn't find anyone talking about it or anything like that. They just ride off. The Han soldiers chase after them, all get picked off with bows and arrows. Gee, that would come in handy earlier. And this strategy makes no sense to me. I really don't know why they retreated to attract one soldier to the witch. If someone knows, please let me know. And why does the Imperial army only send like 8 guys to chase down these elite shadow warriors? I don't get it. They're supposed to be elite and very, very hard to kill. But nah, 8 guys should be able to handle it, no worries. Spoiler alert, they don't. And when these 8 guys are charging off in pursuit, what is stopping the rest of the Roran Horde from just changing their direction and just taking out these 8 guys like they're nothing? There is literally nothing stopping them there. So the Shadow Warriors lead Mulan by design or just by sheer luck. They've led her to the witch. I'm not sure if that was her plan all along, but surely the witch would be more handy at the actual battle instead of just chilling out at some weird sulfur ice flats or whatever the fuck she is. So she's just chilling there and she battles with Mulan. The witch uses her hand to block a sword attack and is surprised when her hand gets cut by the sword. This is really fucking dumb. And then we cut back to the main battle, and when I saw this for the first time, I really couldn't stop laughing because all of a sudden, all the horses are gone. It's just men on foot. These are meant to be horse warriors, men who grew up in the saddle and spent all their life on horseback. But nope, as soon as they join the battle, all the horses are gone, disappeared. I know it's easier to choreograph men fighting against men and not having horses in the mix, but still, it's supposed to be a horde of horse nomads. How is this meant to be realistic? So after defeating the witch, I think she defeats the witch. At this point, I can't even really properly remember. Mulan races back to the battle, getting rid of all her armor and her disguise. Why? Because her enemy said it weakens her because she's using deception or some stupid shit like that.
Your deceit weakens you. It poisons your chi.
Wearing no protection in battle. That is always a really smart idea. But then again, she is protected by the most powerful armor of all. Plot armor. And also she has literal superpowers, so that should keep her safe, and I guess she doesn't give a shit about her disguise anymore and thinks everything will go fine. But then again, everything does turn out fine anyway. And we're back to the main fighting. Everyone is spread out again, even though we saw the Imperial Army in formation for once and actually using some form of battle tactics, but now everyone's spread out fighting one-on-one in a very unconvincing manner. I don't like it when movies do this. Instead of keeping in formation and trying to keep it more realistic, like this movie said it was going to go for, even though there's witches and a phoenix and all. There I go again, I'm going off on a tangent again. But then Mulan races straight into the battle, wounds, kills maybe a couple of guys, kicks them in the head, yep, sure, and then the whole Roaring Horde bloody retreats.
Our men are running from the battlefield! Shame for this play!
Oh, and then all of a sudden some of them have their horses back. And then the witch, finally deciding to do something useful, goes all Dracula Untold on the Imperial Army. Well, in a more lame way, but still. Man, look at all those bats. There's a coronavirus joke in here somewhere. So how does the brave Imperial Army decide to defend against the bats? They use a shield wall, or even a testudo formation, if you will, to defend against tiny bats that will not be able to get through those huge gaps in that shield wall. And then at this part of the battle, I lost my shit again, because the freaking nomads, the nomadic Roarans, have a freaking trebuchet. Now, I do know that nomadic tribes have used trebuchets before when sieging cities and stuff like that. But these nomadic Roarans have brought a trebuchet to a small-scale battle like this where there's no walls in sight. Why is that important? Because trebuchets are pretty inaccurate against enemies, especially if they're spread out and are not gigantic city walls. But it's fine. Instead of shooting with the accuracy of a medieval 2 Total War trebuchet, this one shoots with the accuracy of a Warhammer 2 Total War trebuchet. That's a big difference because this one doesn't freaking miss. Now pay attention to that because this is important for later. After the trebuchet shoots very accurately and does not miss a single Imperial Army formation, Mulan decides to magically get behind the Roaring Army. She literally just rides for a bit and all of a sudden appears behind them without them noticing. Positions a few helmets behind some rocks, fires a couple of arrows and gets their attention. The Roaring Army fires arrows at the helmets, knocking off a few. That's sensible. I can see them doing that. Next, they decide to turn the freaking trebuchet and all of their attention to what looks like a couple of guys behind a rocks instead of what's left of the Imperial fucking army right in front of them. And now remember how the trebuchet shot with pinpoint accuracy just a few moments ago? This time, they overshoot by a huge margin and hit the mountain behind them, causing an avalanche.
You missed! How could you miss? It was 3 feet in front of you!
And the snow avalanche that happens even goes over grass and dirt. Now, I'm no avalanche scientist, but wouldn't the grass and dirt slow down the avalanche? I was always under the impression that avalanches, that when they're on snow, it helped it kind of snowball and keep going faster and faster and faster. That was my impression of it, but I thought if there was dirt and rocks and grass in the way, it would lose its cohesion or something and just slow down. Apparently not the case. But as I said, not an avalanche scientist. And finally, the Roran army is destroyed and the Imperial army survives somehow. Like, literally, I don't know how they survived. Even in the original animated movie, it showed them hiding behind a rock to avoid the avalanche. You can debate the realism of that as much as you want, if it's feasible or not. It doesn't matter. It showed them trying to escape the avalanche and it worked. In this movie, they just all reappear. Wasn't shown to hide or take cover or do anything, and they just all survived. But the Roran army did not. So that's all of my issues with the big battle in the new Mulan movie. Oh, and also the witch does fuck all after turning into bats. Just thought I'd mention that as well. And as always, thank you for watching. More videos to come. And don't forget to sign up for the Imperial Army.